Welcome to Ask Us Marketing Live. I'm your host, Callie Fedosinko of Callie Collective, a digital marketing agency who works with financial advisors to connect them with their target audience through data-driven content, websites, and advertising. If you'd like to learn more about us, go ahead and scan that QR code. This episode today is brought to you by the Financial Planning Association, otherwise known as the FPA. And if you didn't know, the FPA has an amazing national conference coming up this September where you can meet me. So make sure you sign up. You can visit, I got to point the right way. You can scan this QR code, visit the FPA website. Today, we're talking with Katie Braden, and we're talking about how you can cultivate a deeper relationship with your clients and prospects through the questions that you ask. Katie is joining us from C&J Innovations to discuss a 25-year financial planner veteran who used her experience in building and selling a successful firm to create a repeatable question process that any advisor can use to grow theirs. So, welcome, Katie.
Hey, Callie.
How are you doing today on this Monday?
I am fabulous. I'm here in Vegas. It is hot, warm, diving straight into summer here. And I know not everybody in the country has such great weather. So I'm trying to come to you with some bright colors, bring the sunshine to everyone joining us here today.
Oh, I love that. I am in Nashville and I'm super excited because today it's a high of 80, which is not too hot. So I will probably be outside later.
Good.
So, let's start out and let's talk about your background a little bit. Like, who are you and what is C&J Innovations?
Yeah, who am I? Big question. So I am here in my capacity as the fractional chief evangelist for C&J Innovations. Yeah. So others may know me from the other hat I wear in my own business. Callie, you and I have talked about it a lot. It's called Advisor Video Marketing. So love helping advisors with video and marketing. And that's part of how I got connected with Colleen, the C in C&J Innovations, talking about how we can kind of bring more authenticity, do marketing, right? Help advisors really get to know the passport package, which we'll dive into later, but part of C&J Innovations.
Yeah. So C&J Innovations, which for people who are joining us, they offer this questionnaire that advisors can use that really goes deep with your clients. And so I want to talk a little bit about Colleen because my understanding, of course, is that she started C&J Innovations based off of her experience creating, building, and then selling this successful advisor business that she created. But it was all based on these questions and going deeper with the client. So could you talk a little bit about Colleen and like her experience and how that led to this business?
Yeah, I think I could talk about Colleen all day long. I so wish I would have met her like 20 years ago when I joined the profession. She really built the practice that I think every advisor would want to have, and especially women, because she started in the profession as a single mom of a sick young child, right? So started out making no money, didn't really know where to go. And this is a couple decades ago, right? So a little harder than it is today. And she is honestly, Callie, the best collaborator I have ever met in my life. So she just kept surrounding herself with great advisors, asking other advisors questions, like trying to figure out really how to pull out everyone's unique ability, what was their best strength, because she quickly realized early on, she's like, I'm really good at asking questions and building relationships. But, maybe some of the nitty gritty data analysis and, the technical things that go along with financial planning. She's a CFP. She's like, I can do that, but that wasn't really where her joy was.
Yeah.
And Callie, I know we could also talk all day about the fact that advisors so often like try to do everything themselves, right? Yeah. Try to hold it all in and try to do the marketing and the compliance and the technical stuff. But Colleen was like, look, I'm going to do what I'm really good at and bring in other people. And she always talks about how she like built a moat around her clients, like so that they have everything they need they're kind of on that little castle island.
Mhm.
And then everyone else kept saying, well, how are you building such a great business? And
Mhm.
it was through the questions she asked. So throughout her,
Mm.
25 plus years building her business, she was like top advisor at Lincoln, like top advisor in the country. And they were like, how do you do that? And so once she was kind of going through that process, she was like, I'm going to go out on top, which is
Yeah.
another thing that advisors don't often do, right? They kind
Yeah.
of tend to die in their chair and they just want to, they're going to keep going until they can't anymore. But she was like, you know what? I'm going to go out on top. Could have just retired and walked away, but she has such a heart for helping others that she was like,
Mm.
look, I've been asked kind of how I built this business. She was only working like part-time for much of it, like built
Mm.
a wildly successful business, spent tons of time with her family, traveling on hobbies, right, while still building a business,
Yeah.
executed a successful succession plan. And then she was like, you know what? Let me give back to the profession. Let me build something that is scalable, repeatable, and helps other advisors build the business and life that she did.
Mm. And that's where the C&J innovations came from, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So she's the C&J Innovations. And then the J is Jeannie Hurlburt. She's a PhD expert in assessments and
Mm.
sociology and data and all kinds of crazy things that are kind of beyond my IQ level, but it's so fun to learn from her.
Love that. Definitely beyond mine as well. So, what kind of questions was Colleen asking?
Yeah, so her thing was really kind of going beyond the financial realm. And so
Mm.
we know that, right? When we look at
Hmm.
kind of what makes relationships sticky, what clients and prospects are looking for today, right? We've been hearing
Yeah.
it, I feel like, for 10 years now, like, oh, it's all a commodity. And now with the rapid advancement of AI and everything else, and it's fair for clients and prospects to say, look, I actually need someone to help me with my whole life.
Mm.
And so really focusing on like mindsets, right? So it's not
Mm.
just kind of like, where are you necessarily? It's both looking at where are you now across
Hmm.
8 different mindsets and where do you want to be? Because it's
Mm.
also easy to be like, oh, well, I want to be there, but you have to kind of pause and go, okay, but where are we starting from? Right?
Yeah.
You're not just going to get immediately from A to B, and we know that financially, it's never a straight line. It's all over the place. So continually evaluating,
Right.
things like wellness. So we all know in the pandemic, I was one of them, right? Our overall wellness and how we're taking care of ourselves kind of went down. Junk food
Mm.
intake kind of went up, right?
Hmm.
Not
Hmm.
all the healthy decisions. Do you actually have purpose? What is your purpose before
Mm.
heading into retirement?
Yeah.
Things like, do you even want to work in partnership with a financial advisor, or are you a do-it-yourselfer?
Mm.
Totally fine, but really kind of expanding on these things outside of the financial realm that
Mm.
then absolutely do link back to the financial realm.
Yeah. So, how would she use that in her practice?
Yeah, so it's so kind of what was sort of built now. So she would start every agenda, right? Which
Mhm.
is always a good thing. Advisors are always talking about like having a strict agenda and do you send it out? And before anything on the agenda, she would always just pause and just really check in with the client, say, what's on your mind? Like, what are you thinking
Mhm.
about today? And
Mhm.
I love she has one story that like a client was freaking out about like a plumbing issue, right? Plumbing,
I
not
mean,
her.
it can be pretty stressful though.
Right, exactly, and so in her mind, she was like, "You know what? There is nothing effective that we're gonna get done in this meeting because they've made it clear all they're doing is thinking about their plumbing issue."
Mm.
So she got her team to find a plumber to go over to their house, like, right
Mm.
then to fix that plumbing issue, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
those things about, like, how are you really helping that whole person? And you betcha that built a deeper relationship, right?
Right.
Stickier relationship, like, showed that you really, really care about the whole client.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned mindsets. Um, what are the mindsets? How
Yeah.
many are there? And it's like, yeah, tell me about those.
Yeah. So there are 11 total, but there
Okay.
are 5 core mindsets. So if we think about kind of how humans sort of evolve, humans, people,
Mhm.
kind of go through their working career and beyond, then
Mhm.
there's kind of a, breaking point around age 45-ish.
Okay.
So we've got 5 core mindsets that are for everyone, and then 3 core mindsets for those 45 and under, and
Mm.
3 separate ones for those over 45, right? When you're really getting more into that, like planning for the next stage.
Yeah.
And so the 5 core mindsets are a readiness mindset.
Mm.
And so they all have like a superpower. Like, what's the core of this mindset? And that's really around having a buffer, right? You have like an emergency fund, right? Even
Okay.
for high net worth clients, right? They get laid off. They have things
Sure.
happen, you know, making
Yeah.
sure. And I know when I was a practitioner, Callie, I'm sure you saw
Yeah.
it too. You
Yeah.
know, I feel like sometimes there's this divide of like, oh, well, they're, you know, a high net worth client. Like they don't need budgeting. They don't need an emergency
Right.
fund. Like they,
Oh, totally.
right.
But I mean, they've got a higher lifestyle as well. So if they get laid off, it's about the same as anyone, you know?
Right? Or if all their money is tied up in company stock and
Yep.
something happens with the company, or all kinds of things can happen. So making sure that, you know, advisors are keeping that front of mind. The caring mindset, you know, this is a really big one. And
Yeah.
I unfortunately just lost my dad. And so we kind
Yeah.
of went through this. And that's really around making sure that your loved ones have access to your passwords, your estate
Mm.
documents, everything
Mm.
around digital estate planning. You know, I'm having
Right.
this conversation. I'm sure you know people that somebody passed away, you know, expectedly or unexpectedly. And on top of the emotional burden, having to like figure all this stuff out.
Yep. Yep.
So really right around having conversations like that with clients, that's going to make a world of difference.
Mm.
Right? And what's the stat? It's something like 70% of spouses leave the advisor when the other spouse dies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's huge.
Kids
And
too.
right? And I can bet if you like went through that exercise and said, "Hey, let's make sure that we're planning ahead that we know this." Again, that's going to create that deeper relationship. You
Right.
just made their life so much easier in one of the hardest times of their entire life.
Yeah. Yeah.
The third one is foundation mindset. So that
Okay.
kind of gets actually more into insurance, right? You have the key protections in place,
Mm.
whatever that is. If you're a business owner, if you're an individual, you know, life insurance, long-term care, all
Yeah.
those things. Wellness, I mentioned, right? And
Mhm.
that even gets, this can be interesting, you know, between spouses.
Mm.
This has created a lot of interesting conversations, and a lot of people have had advisors have had prospects coming in, like talking about the wellness mindset, right? And you
Yeah.
have one spouse that's like, whatever, I'm fine. And the other spouse is like, no, like I want to be healthy and, you know, live into my 90s, hundreds in
Yeah.
a healthy way.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
that
how,
sounds
so it's like,
familiar.
yeah, not just do it. If you have all the money in the world, right? You've done all that,
Right.
but you're not actually,
So are you asking the questions separately to each spouse, or are they
yeah.
taking asking them together?
Yeah, definitely asking them separately and
Okay.
then kind of doing like a partner recap. And again, we're asking both where are they now
Mm.
and where do they want to be? And
Mhm.
that's where sometimes there isn't a difference, right? Sometimes people are
Yeah.
like, I'm not that healthy, don't really care about being that healthy, right? And there's no judgment. Like
Right.
if that's where you want to be, you
Yeah.
know, but it creates a conversation among spouses, I can tell you that.
I can imagine. I mean, does that as an advisor, are they put in a place where they kind of have to navigate that between the two spouses?
Or sometimes the spouses also navigate a little bit between themselves,
Yeah.
right? But but it also can, you know, once that conversation comes up, again, seeing that the advisor is caring about things beyond their income and their net worth and their
Right.
investable assets, then it
They're
does
more
create
than a
a
number.
conversation, right? It's and
Yeah.
it's what are we saving for? It's if
Yeah.
you don't care about being healthy, you know, what are we going to do with this money? You know, so then it kind
Mhm.
of creates continually expanding conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we're all craving right now is that human connection, especially in such like a digital world, you know? I
Right?
mean, my entire I'm work remote, so my entire job is with screens and people on screens.
Right?
So you really want to know the person behind, or you want to feel like you're a person. So I could see how it'd be really powerful for an advisor to be asking those questions and like, oh, hey, I'm not just my assets. I am a person.
Well, and it is, you know, I mean, I will go back to my dad again here. You know, when we talk about wellness, I had somebody mention to me recently, they were like, oh, it's not appropriate for an advisor to be commenting on a client's weight. And I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa. I'm like, that is not what wellness is about. And we were on social media and we were sort of going back and forth. And I was like, hold on. I was like, you know, even for really healthy people,
Yeah.
you don't always know what's going on underneath. Right.
Right.
So I will say my dad should have gotten a colonoscopy sooner, right? He died
Mm,
of colon cancer and he was
mm,
the healthiest person I know, right? So I'm
right.
sure he took his health for granted.
Yeah.
And so it's conversations like that of nudging people, even who are outwardly and otherwise completely healthy, to say, are you getting your annual checkups? Are you looking into these things? Again,
Right.
this is the future that we're planning for. This is what we're mapping out here. How can we make sure that we are doing everything in our control to
Mm,
live that life that you're planning for?
right. And as a reminder to everyone watching, if you have questions, comments, you can type them in and we will see them on our end. So
Yeah.
if you have any questions for Katie or me, just pop them in there. So you said that people are rating themselves like, this is where I want to be, this is where I'm at. Do they ever come to the meetings and they're kind of like sad?
Um, I don't think, not that we've heard
Okay.
from any advisors that are using it.
Yeah.
And I'll say it's on a scale of 1 to 12, which
Right.
people are usually like, well, why is it 1 to 12? And that's because it gives opportunity for growth, right? If you
Mm,
think about anything and you're like, we're rating you on a scale of, 1 to 4,
right.
you've got to do a lot to get up to the next level.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if it's 1 to 12, then you're seeing and celebrating that
Hmm.
incremental progress, which is
Hmm.
huge. And the thing is, I mean, this is across eight mindsets. You're
Yeah.
not going to do everything all at once.
Right.
Right? And so it's the same thing as every other area of financial planning, and this is why when I started practice over 10 years ago, I was doing modular financial planning. Because to me, the
Yeah.
idea of like giving a client, a 2-inch binder with 87 things that they need to go do, we know that most clients don't do that. And
Yeah.
so this really allows the focus to be on what's most important.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so that again really reinforces the benefit of a continual relationship with an advisor. It's not just
Right.
here's your Monte Carlo simulation. Here, let's get some insurance in place. Here's your investment portfolio. Okay, call us in 5 years. This is
Yeah.
like it is an iterative process. And we encourage advisors to do this every year. Because again,
Right.
sometimes you are going to go backwards, right? Or
Yeah.
something's going to change in your life and you're like, "Oh, I was here, but, ABC happened and, something changed and so now I've gone down." This is where we need to focus.
Mm. Mhm. So with the 8 mindsets, uh, I know that it's focused on life as a whole, which everybody says holistic planning. This is actual holistic planning. But apart from that, does it also have those financial questions mixed in there?
It doesn't. So it's really on the mindsets. And so also part of the goal is that it really is something that fits very seamlessly
Yeah.
into an advisor's practice, right? So we
Mm.
want to, this is like a quick
Mhm.
online, takes like 5 minutes for clients and prospects to do,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of advisors, and I mean, from working with them on the marketing side, Callie, like they're hesitant to kind of like shift what they're doing, right? So we didn't want to
Right.
have, people have to totally change everything. So
Yeah.
some advisors like, hey, use it as part of the prospect process. Some advisors are, hey, use it, starting with your raving fan clients as part of an annual review,
Right.
whatever makes it kind of like a low lift thing so that
Yeah.
advisors don't feel like they're having to change so much. But then they're going to see the shift in how clients and prospects are like, oh, this is
Mm.
changing things. So one great example, one advisor had a
Yeah.
client that he'd worked with for years. And right, they had the list of like, hey, every quarter you've got to do these things, you've got to do these things. And the client just didn't do it. And then
Mm.
they implemented
Mm.
this. And then within like minutes of doing this, the client went and execute all those tasks that have been
Huh.
sitting there forever. And the advisor was like, what? Why did you finally do that? And I
Yeah.
kid you not, the client said, because by asking me those questions, it showed me that you care about more than just my
Mm.
financial picture.
I love that.
And I was like, that's everything, right?
Yeah. That's
That's
what
what
you
it's
want.
that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Um, so okay, that's what I was gonna say. You said it's a 5-minute quiz, and I was gonna say, yes, I can confirm because I took it.
Yes.
And if you can take it,
Yeah.
viewers, just scan this QR code above my head, and that will take you to the C&J websites. And then there are two different what should I call them? Surveys,
So it's an
questions,
assessment. And so
assessment.
this is where the very smart people come into the room. There is a difference between surveys, quizzes, and assessments. Please
Okay.
don't quiz me on exactly what that is. But I will also say this is a patent pending assessment, right? So
Okay.
like it's kind of a big deal to actually go through the
The
patent
patent
pending
process,
process.
yes.
And anybody that does take it, I will actually
Mhm.
encourage you. So take it
Yeah.
like you think one of your prospects would, but also if you want to see the most robust report, then
Mhm.
whether you take it for those under 45, if that's your target client, or over 45, I encourage you to select lower numbers for where
Mhm.
you're at now in each mindset and higher numbers for where you want to be, because you'll see the report at the end and it actually gives very specific key action steps. And
Yeah.
so again, this is the other thing, is like we want this to be as helpful as possible for advisors. So instead of being like, here again, here's the thing, like, well, yeah, but what do I do with this? We give them all of the, language for rolling this out. And the report in the end, again, clients are going to see it and go, yeah, but this is too many things. And like, yeah, that's
Right.
why you sit down with the advisor and say, this is what we want to focus on. But
Mm.
also, it's great for like your C and D clients, or even
Mhm.
prospects that aren't a good fit. They're getting value. They're getting
Right.
like actionable takeaways that they can use in their own life, even if you're like, hey, we're not doing a super high touch relationship, or it's not the right prospect.
Got it. For people who are using this in their practice,
Yeah.
are you seeing that the answers they're getting are the same? So, well, let me clarify that a little bit more. So, if they're sending it to multiple clients, is it easy to identify something in your audience that you could then market to, or is it kind of all over the board?
Yeah, so once you've done, enough of them, you
Right.
need data to actually have
Yeah.
something valuable. Then every quarter, advisors get a data dashboard. And so
Mm.
it shows them exactly that. And so when we think about, if we're like
Mhm.
working with you and we have a joint client, Callie, it'd be like, hey,
Right.
what do we want to do for their marketing for the next quarter or whatever? This is going
Right.
to show us, be like, look, a lot of your clients are not doing well in their caring mindset, right? Meaning
Mhm.
they haven't shared their documents with their loved ones. Great, let's do some blogs or some videos
Yeah.
or some webinars on, how to do digital estate planning. Where should your documents be? How to have that conversation with your family, right?
Right.
That's telling you exactly what the biggest concerns of your clients are, rather than like just having to guess. So that's
Right.
another key part of it, actually, is helping to drive your marketing and communication strategy.
Mhm. If you remember from the beginning, I said we have data driven, and that's exactly what I
I know.
love is the data.
As soon as you said that, I was like, yes, exactly.
So I really nerd out on that kind of information. So you're speaking my love language right now.
Right? Well, you need it because, I mean, otherwise advisors are just guessing. And then they're like, oh,
Yep.
why did nobody respond to this? Why did nobody, reach out
Right.
after
And
this?
it's always shocking the content that performs the best because it's never what you think it's going to be, or
Right?
rarely is, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could see how this tool would be very valuable, not only in how you're building your practice, but also how you're marketing your practice. Um,
Yeah, what I'll say, the other really interesting one is on that partnership one. Again, you want clients that want to be in partnership. And so again, another interesting case study was, one advisor did it with a couple, and
mhm,
he thought he had a really good relationship with the husband and was kind
mhm.
of concerned about the relationship with the wife.
Yeah.
Well, you can't always ask that, right? If you put people on the spot, they're going to be like, "Oh no, it's all good," or whatever.
Right.
It's just kind of not the ideal scenario. And so by having people do this initially and ongoing, you can do a continual check of like, are we actually on the same page? And
Mhm.
so they did this, and the husband scored low. He was like, I don't feel like we're working in partnership. And he was like, I also don't
Mm.
really want to work in partnership with an
Oh,
advisor. And the wife was really high. And the advisor was like, what's
what is
going on
going on?
here?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand this. And so he asked them when they came in for the annual review,
Right.
and it turned out the husband was like, I don't really think we need you, but like my wife likes working with you.
Mm.
And so having, that
Fascinating.
other thing, and so created a totally different conversation. And it's
Right.
also a really, really great way to make sure that the quieter voice in a partnership is always
Mm.
heard, right?
Yeah.
And we know that. We know that no matter who it is, there is always a quieter voice.
Yeah.
So this, by having them do it separately, you're like, nope, your voice is equally heard, it's equally taken into account, and
Right.
we're making sure to extract that.
Yeah. Now you spoke about there's a difference between survey, quiz, and assessment. Don't worry, I'm not going to quiz you on it.
Okay. It's like, oh no.
But like when we send out surveys or advisors are sending out surveys at the end of the year,
Yeah.
it's always like pulling teeth to get people to fill them out. So how do you get people to fill out the assessment? Is it just different because of the questions? Like, or is there a little bit of a struggle of getting them to answer?
No, I mean, and that's where again we work with advisors individually during the onboarding process to kind of say, hey, what makes the most sense for you? Advisors that are in the growth phase, this works really well for advisors looking
Mm.
to grow
Mhm.
because again, it's setting that stage from the beginning. So if you do
Yeah.
it like before a discovery meeting, again, if clients don't want to do it, it's 5 minutes. It's
Mm.
online. You can do it on your phone, right? If
Right.
clients don't even want to do that, that can also be a key to like, okay, they're probably not going
Mhm.
to continue on, right? We're not asking about personal financial stuff. We're not asking all those questions. Sometimes advisors are like, I don't want to tell you how much I make and how much I have
Yeah.
until I've talked to you.
Right.
So this is also a really good way of kind of filtering through that versus the prospects that see it and they're like, again, this person really cares about me.
Mhm.
That kind of sets the stage from the beginning.
Yeah.
And in there, if they're like, hey, I really want to work in partnership with an advisor, like half the, sale is already done. They're like, this is
Mhm.
great. So if you just kind of make it part of that onboarding process, it's really great. And then for
Yeah.
advisors that maybe aren't as much in growth stage or they just really have, some long-term those raving fan clients, then you
Mhm.
just have a conversation with them. And you're like, hey, we're adding this new tool to our advice. And so we'd love to have you, take it and give us some feedback, right? You've
Mhm.
always got those raving fan clients that are happy to test out anything
Right.
you do and give you
Yep.
feedback,
The client advisor board, I know that's
right?
a big thing.
Yep.
Totally something you could take to them first,
Yeah.
get their feedback. Yeah, I can see how this has a lot of great, um, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but I can see how it could be really great for someone building a practice.
Well, and I would
So
say it's also, a lot of advisors that I've talked to, like, hey, I want to have these conversations, but I don't necessarily know how.
yeah.
Right? And so that's the other challenge. And I mean, there's some great, intensive training out there that, I mean, there is so much cool stuff coming to the market,
Mm.
that we're big fans of. And,
Mhm.
one of the things that makes it great about this tool is like, again, it's such an easy addition and it
Mhm.
does a lot of the work for you, right?
Yeah.
It asks the questions, it spits out a lot of the feedback, you can kind of take it from there. And then again, like they've already been asked the questions in the assessment. So they're already coming with
Mhm.
more ideas and thoughts that kind of make it a lot
Mm.
easier to get the conversation going. And so we're also seeing this
Right.
being really successful with like junior advisors taking over a practice, right? Where maybe
Mm.
the exiting advisor, this wasn't part of what they did when they started the
Right.
practice, but the younger advisor, like, hey, how can I really get in and build relationships, right? How
Yeah.
can I kind of show that I'm the one taking over and grow? And so this is working really well in that situation too.
Right. Do you have any examples of maybe some surprising answers that advisors have gotten? I mean, you did tell us about the husband and wife, but
Yeah.
maybe like surprising results that then could be used in marketing.
Yeah. So one of them was we had an advisor that works with a lot of like high net worth clients, and
Mhm.
so in that like longevity question and talking about
Mm.
when it comes into like long term care and all that stuff, they kind of had assumed that a lot of their clients had long term care insurance, and
Mm.
when they discovered that they didn't,
Yeah.
then they ended up doing something like $1 million in premiums in
Ooh.
1 year. Right, and then
Wow.
again, huge marketing opportunity because they were like,
Right.
"Oh, people clearly are curious about this, they need to know it," right? And again, this is
Yeah.
where it can sometimes be, easy for advisors to assume or
Right.
just, somehow things slip through the cracks, it
And you know
happens.
what? That touches on another piece of uh, your least expensive client. I think that's how they put it, is the one you already have. Like
Yeah,
and that's a perfect example. Like that was already a client. You didn't have to establish that trust from the beginning. You already had it. It was an existing opportunity that you just didn't know about.
right?
I think those get overlooked a lot. Is your current clients, how can you be helping them more?
Yep. Yeah, and then how can that organically lead to referrals, right? Because 'Cause they're
Yeah,
gonna be like, "Oh, wow, love my advisor," and when you love your advisor, you want to tell other people.
right, because it's such a help in your life. Like,
Yep,
wow, it changed my life. I've got everything in order.
exactly.
That's yeah, very powerful stuff. Um as we wrap up here, is there anything else people should know about C&J Innovations or the question or assessment?
Love it. Love it. No, I would encourage people to take it. Like I said, take it,
Yeah.
go on. You'll see the results instantly. But I will tell you, so an advisor would put it on their website, it gets
Mhm.
white labeled, it goes through your compliance, it's got all your language on there and everything. And so when that happens, you get the PDF, and we do that on purpose so that
Mhm.
you are the one reaching out to the client or prospect, or deciding,
Mm.
hey, we'll go over through this in more detail in our annual meeting. So just know you'll see the results
Mhm.
instantly. And then since it's on our website, we'll get it, we'll send you the PDF. Um,
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah.
So again, QR code above my head. If you want to go
Perfect.
take that assessment, it's real quick. And you do get to take that PDF back.
Yes.
This was so informative. Thank you, Katie. I really enjoyed having you.
Yeah, Kelly, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. All right, for our audience, I need to pull up my QR code here. Next Monday, we are having Tim Goodwin join us talking about Google reviews and how he expanded his practice with Google reviews. He was also on the Kitsch's Marketing Summit. So we're very excited to have him. And if you don't want to have to remember when or what time that we're going to have him, then you should sign up for our weekly newsletter. Because guess what? I'm going to tell you every Thursday the upcoming Ask Us Marketing guest and topic. So you don't have to remember. So we got QR codes all over the place. Make sure you scan them all and join us